Welcome, welcome. We're back for Soul Mastery. I am Chaitali Desai, and today we are talking all about the feminine archetype, what it actually means, because as you guys know, pop culture has us thinking one thing, but I want to bring the truth of feminine energy, feminine archetypes, and what does that mean in the world today? So I have brought on my colleague and friend, Melissa Romero, and we're going to dive into all of this. And not only that, we're going to share with you how you can create it into a ceremony, either with Melissa or you get to do it maybe at home and just really stepping into it, no matter if you are male or female in physical form. We all have these energies behind us. So, first things first, Melissa, welcome to Soul Mastery. I'm so excited that you are here with us. This is going to be so good. But before we dive in, I'd love for you to take a minute and introduce yourself.
Hello. My name is Melissa Romero. I am an empowerment coach, healer, and ceremonialist. I host retreats all over the world. I create spaces for people to tap into their divine feminine, all while empowering themselves and creating that mastery of knowing that being in the feminine is something so beautiful and so powerful. So yeah, that's me. I think I'm just a creator of spaces.
Oh, that is beautiful. So let's tap into that. So when someone is like listening to us right now, not just anybody, but anybody, somebody. Anyways, when they're hearing this, and they're like, "Oh, we're talking about feminine energy. That's not for me." I want to break that. Yeah, you are known as a spiritual misfit. So let's go ahead and really turn this and disrupt the pattern. When you talk about feminine energy, when you talk about this archetype, what does it mean for you personally?
Mm-hmm. So for me personally, I think being in the divine feminine. Before I get started, let me just say one thing. Everyone has an image of what everything looks like. And so the reason why I call myself a misfit is because I always defy that image. I always understand that for everyone, every person, every human, every spirit, every soul, it might look a little different. And so your tapping into divine feminine might not look like my tapping into divine feminine. And so what I love to explore with my clients, with people in ceremony, is what does it look like for you? Because you know what it looks like for you, because when you hit it, it's like this beautiful, beautiful, tasty, like G spot. It's like, yes, I'm there. Yeah, so for me, what it looks like to be in my feminine power, it looks vulnerable, it looks authentic, um, it looks loud at times. I have a voice. I'm very proud of my voice. I use my voice. And so that's my divine feminine. And it's not strong and powerful and overpowering and superior. And it's none of that. It's none of that. It's how do I explore all those things: vulnerability, authenticity, speaking my voice. How do I explore that in the most beautiful, the most gentle, the most nurturing way possible? And so that's what divine feminine looks like for me personally.
Okay. And so then when people are coming into your ceremonial containers, what allowing them the freedom to explore their perception of it, but if they've never felt it or never stepped into it, or if it's their first experience, what is that for? Maybe someone even today who's listening, they're like, I still can't connect it. What is that? What does that look like?
Yeah,
Right?
what you're
For that
saying.
starter almost.
Mm-hmm. So what we do is in my ceremonies, in my goddess circles, in my divine feminine ceremonies, what I do is I create a space where we explore all the aspects of the divine feminine, whether it's vulnerability, compassion, wisdom, right? And for everyone that comes to those spaces, what happens is that they realize that they connect so deeply with one or a few of them or multiple of them, right?
Right.
And so they get to explore, because if they don't know what it is, right, how do they know what it looks like for them? So they get to explore the space and explore all the different energies of the divine feminine. And then there's always one or two that they fall right into, and they're like, oh, wow, this one's for me. Like maybe wisdom is your divine feminine attribute that's super powerful. Maybe vulnerability, maybe being nurturing, right? So
Right.
all of these, what you get to do in my ceremony is you get to explore all these avenues. You get to explore all these energies until you find out which one resonates best with you. And then what happens is the more you practice, the more you realize what it looks like for you. What does being wise look like for you? What does wisdom look like for you, right? Your wisdom might not be my wisdom. And so how do you explore that energy of wisdom, and how do you express it with others? How do you share it? Because all this, once we come into this energy, the divine feminine's job is to share it with the world, with others, right? And
Right.
so you figure out which one works best with you. And there is no destination, it's a journey. And so you're constantly learning more, and you're constantly tapping into others. Like for a long time, wisdom was my energy, and I love wisdom. But now lately, vulnerability and compassion has become my energy that I love to work with. So how do I become more vulnerable? How am I compassionate? How do I surrender? How do I do these things? And so as I go and as I journey on this path, I start exploring more of the energies, getting more familiar and connecting more with each of the energies. And so that's what happens. It's just when you come into a ceremony, especially as a beginner, it's just an entryway. And then from there, you get to explore more. And it's a beautiful.
I love that because you're taking words, emotions, feelings that oftentimes many people have a negative connotation towards. Take vulnerability. No. Phew, right? Because you have to be strong, you have to be solid, and you can't be vulnerable. Now you're taking that's let's just stick with vulnerability for a second. You're taking this concept and now you're turning it upside down and you're wanting to help empower it. I think that's absolutely beautiful. And what a great shift for perception, a great shift because for so many women, especially women and men also, because they are vulnerable, they've just never been empowered to feel it, right? Because like strong men don't cry kind of a concept.
Mhm.
So all like the bullshit narrative, where I find this to be really eye opening, for lack of a better word, is that oftentimes you hear of the divine feminine as like chaos and disorder, right? But now we're taking it and we're making it seem so natural, normal, in rhythm to who we actually are. So, for those of you who are listening, I think this is so empowering for you if you have ever felt that your vulnerability was your weakness. If
Mm.
you were to really tap into that, imagine like the possibility there, right? To use that now as your superpower. So now when people are thinking about this ceremony, when people think of ceremony, think like weddings, they think of like some kind of ritualized event. Can you kind of talk us through like how did you step into ceremonial anything? Like how
Yeah,
did that even come to you, come for you?
I'll definitely answer that. But before that, let me go back to what you were talking about
Huh.
these energies, right? These emotions. It's funny because I always speak in my ceremonies, or in my goddess circles, about how all of these powers that embody the divine feminine, all of these energies, all of these, I think they're so beautiful, have all been, for some reason, the powers that be have made it so that there's something that is always has a negative connotation, right?
Yeah.
Vulnerability, flow. Oh my gosh, you're not on a schedule. Like divine feminine flows, right? It's like,
Right.
and all of these things are so negative. And for whatever reason, I'm not going to sit here and, I mean, if I'm sure a conspiracy theorist
We'd
could
be going down a whole different rabbit hole if we even
as
opened that Pandora's box right now.
but if you were to think about these powers that have had such a negative connotation, if you really were to tap into them, you would realize how absolutely powerful it makes you. Like to be able to be vulnerable will make you fearless. Because think about what is our biggest fear. Our biggest fear is vulnerability, is being laughed at, or this or that, or you know what I mean? But imagine if you could step into that. If you can step into your biggest fear, you'd be fearless. There'd be nothing to stop you, right?
Yeah.
Or if you can step into flow, oh my gosh, you'd be at peace. You'd be free. Nothing could
Yeah.
stop you. So all these energies, the reason why we tap into them is because they make you more powerful. Although in society, right, in the world, it seems like these are things that make you weaker, or have, like you said, have such a negative connotation. But if you really tap into these energies, what it does is it actually makes you more powerful. And it's the most empowering thing a woman, a man, or anybody could do. So
100% agree.
yes. So let's talk about ceremony. So ceremony, to me, it's so funny because last year I went around and I sit in medicine ceremonies a lot, with indigenous tribes all over, mostly in Colombia and Costa Rica. And last year I went to Mexico, and I always wonder, what does ceremony mean to you? And I always go, every time I sit with one of them, I ask them, I was like, what's ceremony mean to you? And and it seems across the board, it's the same thing. A ceremony is a celebration of life, right? Every moment is a ceremony. If you're celebrating
Mm,
life, if you're being present, you're in ceremony. And so when I create these
yeah.
ceremonies, it's how do we celebrate this thing? So if it's a divine feminine ceremony, it's how do I celebrate my divine feminine power, right? How do we celebrate it? We tap into it. We go into every one of those energies and we feel them, and we celebrate them while we're there. We're present with them, right? We breathe into them. And so ceremony for me has absolutely changed my life. It started about 6 years ago. I'm sitting in ceremony in Costa Rica. I realized that this is my life. Like, I love this. I feel most comfortable in ceremony. I feel most comfortable. And so I've decided about 6 years ago to live my whole entire life in ceremony. And what does that look like? Like I said earlier, it looks like a giant meditation. It looks like every moment you're present, or every moment you come into this space. It looks like a celebration of life. And a celebration of life is to live it. And how do you live life? Is that you be more present with life, right? All of it, all of
Yeah.
it. Just recently, about 2 weeks ago, my brother passed unexpectedly.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
yeah, oh, thank you. And it was sad, as sad as humanly we can experience, the loss of a brother. Is my only brother, is like nothing ever, right?
Mhm.
And so, but how do we celebrate that? We look at the life he lived. We look at the joy he brought into the world. And so it's
Yeah.
always about that. And it's not in a sense that I don't feel the feelings. Obviously, I feel the feelings. And that's also a celebration, right? When I get sad, I feel my sadness. That's my celebration. That's my ceremony, right? When I'm present with all that is, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, I get angry at times, and I feel my anger, and I'm present with that. And so that's what ceremony is being present with whatever the energy is, being present in life. And so living a life in ceremony is that. And bringing ceremony to others, I just like to teach them that, hey, look at this. Even if it's for a few hours today, you could be present to this energy. You could be present to whatever energy we're looking for, whether it's divine feminine, whether it's a plant medicine ceremony, whatever it is, let's all be present to this. And so that's what ceremony is to me, and that's what I love to bring to people. And that it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be because everybody has, like, we have this thing, and it's a human thing, we all do it, where when we think of one thing, we put it in a box, and that's what it looks like, and that's what it is. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no other way I could look at it. And so I like to bring it to people, even spirituality. I do the same thing with spirituality. I like to bring it to people in such an easy, casual way, where it's like, holy shit, the ceremony stuff is great, or the spirituality stuff is fun. Like, oh, I thought it was like we were going to sit in meditation in lotus position for hours on end. So boring. And it's so not like that. Like, so ceremony to me is super, super, super sacred. And yet I love to bring it to people so that they understand that they could live life in ceremony, and it doesn't have to look the way we think it is, you know? Oh,
Hold
I think
on.
you
We are
froze.
breaking up for some reason.
There you
Oh, there you are. That
Hi.
was so wild. Okay. We're going to, for whatever we missed, it's okay. I'm sure that we're going to unpack even something stronger right now. For me, it sounds like ceremony is acceptance. accepting
Mm,
all of you in the moment, every moment, and understanding that, yeah, you're in constant motion, in constant evolution, and you get to accept that, right? Because I think so often we think about acceptance and it's like, it's one of our core desires to belong, to accept. However, we don't fully accept ourselves. So sitting in ceremony for me sounds very similar to really sitting with all of you and allowing it all to come out beautifully. Which leads me to
mhm.
the next thing. In today's society, we're so busy, right? Quote unquote busy. And we're so, this world of instant gratification. Oh, I put this post out now. I'm expecting, use social media because it's so prevalent, right? And I expect like 500 likes and 6,000 comments. That's, it's awesome if it happens. But in reality, that's not every day. Okay. But because it's not every day, people tend to want to numb out. They tend to want to check out so that they don't have to feel these emotions. How can sitting in the ceremony of acceptance of your own belonging, how do you think that could change society as we move forward? And I know it's a much bigger question than I was anticipating coming out of my mouth. Just gonna put that
Yeah.
out there. I feel like it's important.
Absolutely perfect. No, I think the minute we make it okay, and this is the beauty of sitting in ceremony with others, is that others express. And so when you come to a divine feminine, whether it's a public one or a private one, especially when it's a public one, I have girls that are like regulars that come to my ceremonies, and you get to watch how they open themselves. You get to watch how vulnerable they are, and they kind of it gives you an invitation so that you also can be vulnerable and that you also can open up. And so what happens is that once we realize that these emotions that have had so many negative connotations, or that have been perceived as something that we don't want to feel, how powerful it is to feel those emotions, and how it's okay to feel sadness, it's okay to feel anger. There's this thing that I've been exploring lately that's called sacred rage, right?
Oh my
Where
God, I was actually going to say something about that. Okay. We must be on the same wavelength for
yeah,
sure right now.
yes, the same frequency, where you get to rage out, and you don't rage out on other people, but you rage out on yourself, and you feel that energy, and you let it express through you. And what happens that at sometimes when you get into that sacred rage and you're raging out and you're expressing that emotion and it comes through you, you get into this space that is so unexpected. I've gotten into like sensual spaces where as I'm like raging, and then all of a sudden it just becomes something very sensual where I get to connect with my body. Or I get into spaces of joy and laughter. Like it starts with rage and sacred rage, and then it becomes laughter and joy. And then I get to laugh at myself and laugh at my rage and laugh at my anger. And so understanding that it's okay to feel these feelings allows for you to actually explore them, feel them, let them pass through you. And once they pass through you, you're able to open yourself up for the feelings that you want. What are they? Are they joy? Are they laughter? Are they sensuality? What is the emotion you're looking for? But the thing is, what society has us do, because feeling these things is bad. So what we do is we suppress and we suppress and
Right.
we suppress and we suppress until we no longer can suppress, and then something small happens and we're like, "Rah!" And so, or this deep depression happens, or it triggers dis-ease where our body starts to manifest these emotions that we've suppressed.
Yeah.
So it's super important. Gosh, I think I forgot the question, but but
That's
it's
okay.
super important to come into these emotions that have been so quote unquote like unacceptable. Because once you come into the acceptance, like you said, of these emotions, the acceptance that I do feel that, I mean, I'm sure we look back at some of the major players in spirituality, Jesus, Buddha, I'm sure they all felt sadness, anger, fear. They've all
Yeah.
felt all those things. And so it's important for us to understand that those are part of this human experience, and they're just as sacred as joy, happiness, and all the quote unquote positive emotions. They're there for a reason. And it's super super important to accept them. and to open yourself up to them and love them just as much as you love joy, laughter, happiness.
Yeah, and it's almost as if sacred rage is the medicine for this toxic positivity. It's okay for those of you who do need permission to accept this. It's
Mhm.
okay to not always be happy.
Oh,
we we're human beings, and so we walk in this duality of joy and sadness, of peace and anger. Like, it's okay. It's what we choose to do with these emotions is where the magic happens. So I love that you are putting ceremony as an experience, not something out there, but to experience within. And it's such a beautiful permission slip, even as adults, for whatever reason we need it, to feel all your feelings and let them, as you say, move through you. I remember when I lost my dad. Oh man, you want to talk about angry.
mhm.
Girl, I was mad at everybody and at my gods. I'm Hindu, so I have, well, anyways, I have, I was just so angry. And I would take that anger and I would clean. Look, you could eat off the bathroom floor. And I know you're thinking rage, you're probably trying to beat something up. No, rage can be expressed through cleaning, through movement, through dance. So don't think of rage as like trying to beat a wall. I mean, you could go box, that's cool too, but it doesn't have just one appearance. You get
Mhm,
to
mhm.
have it how it works for you.
Yes.
And by working through those emotions, you do get to release them, and it
Mhm.
opens up that space. And I think that is amazing for people to hear, because what does happen when we hold on to that rage, we wonder why we have so many like stomach related issues, heart related issues, and especially for women, thyroid issues, because we swallow our words, we bite our tongue. There's a direct connection to the metaphysical energetics and the physical body.
Oh, for sure.
So now, if people want to come join one of your ceremonies, what's this look like? How does this happen? Do you have any, what's coming up for you? Fill us in.
So currently, I have 3 retreats coming up. I have one in Temecula, California. That's
Oh,
from the 22nd to the 25th of June.
okay.
Um, that one, if you go onto my Instagram, it's at the underscore spiritual underscore misfit. It's right
Mhm.
next to my name.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes too.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Mhm.
You'll see if you go onto the link on my link tree, you'll see all the upcoming events, how to register for them. I have Temecula, and then I have in September I have Mexico. Mexico is super beautiful. Temecula is amazing. Let me tell you about Temecula first. Temecula is tapping. It's called the Ever Unfolding Rose, tapping into your divine feminine energy. So it's all about tapping into the divine feminine energy. I have an Akashic record clearer, Sylvia Lua, who's coming. She's also one of my partners. She does an Akashic record clearing, and she's going to do a clearing on all the things blocking us from tapping into our divine feminine energy. And I don't know if you've ever had an Akashic record clearing, but it's literally like
No,
being in a plant medicine ceremony. You leave there like, what just happened? Your life
I have
is
never experienced that. I didn't actually know it was a thing.
yeah, it's so beautiful. She goes into your records, into your library, and like pulls out past lifetimes, things that are just no longer serving you and blocking you from that. And then we have this amazing woman, Milagros. She does these sound healings. She's going to be doing sound healings on everyone. Those are also very powerful.
Yeah.
And then we have other activities, of course, relaxing things, being in flow, yummy food. We have an amazing vegan chef. Her name is Avita. She creates like her eating with her is a ceremony in itself. And so it's like it's this beautiful space, and that's in Temecula. That's at the end of June, 22nd to 25th. And then we have Mexico. Mexico is super special. That's a week long. It's off the coast of Puerto Vallarta. It's
Oh
in
wow.
this town called Quimixto. This is a very small town. The retreat center is the town's like pride and joy. So the whole town works in this retreat center. It's so beautiful. It's just they bring in an Aztec chief to do the temazcal. We do temazcal. We do cold plunges, massages, hikes. Like it's just, and then I also host workshops. on that one. And then we have Morocco in October. And
Wow.
oh, yes, that one's going to be beautiful. And that's a women's retreat, just like Mexico. I mean, most of my retreats are all women's retreats. Morocco will be exploring Morocco and like really immersing ourselves in the culture, immersing ourselves in the culture, in the Moroccan culture. We're going to go ride camels in the desert, do a beautiful, luxurious desert camp, stay in a riad in Marrakesh, do the shops, do a hammam. It's all about that. I might do a few workshops. It's not super workshop intensive. It's more about going
The
into the culture
experience.
and experiencing Moroccan culture. And so I'm excited for that. That'll be my first time in Morocco. So
That's beautiful.
yeah. So I'm so excited for those retreats. I try to do I try to host at least 2 to 3 retreats a year. This year was I did a little more. I did less. Um, but yeah, retreats, I mean, it's just a way for us to completely disconnect and reconnect with ourselves. Although it seems like it's so much outer stuff, my goal is to always bring you back to yourself. And so even in my coaching program, when I speak to you, it's always about what's going on here. It's never about the world. I mean, my clients always try to make it about the world. It's like, oh, this person did this person did that, and I let them speak. And then I'm just like, okay, let's bring it back. You
Right.
know, because everyone is always bringing us back home to ourselves. And so every experience that we experience is for us to come back home to ourselves. And like you were saying, the metaphysical and the physical are fully aligned. And so usually when we feel that stuff like dis-ease or anything in our body, it's usually our spirit speaking to us and saying, hey, let's work on this.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, I went off of that.
No, that's okay. But you know, it's beautiful, especially like, so we went to Egypt a couple of like a month ago now, and being disconnected by choice and sometimes not by choice, whatever. I have to tell you, Melissa, I came back with such amazing clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like, I don't know, it was just something about being off the grid, quote unquote, and really just being so present in that moment in time. And when you don't even think about it, right? Because you're so present in that moment. And then all of a sudden, it was like space opened up to allow the information I needed to come through to come through. So if anyone is like, oh, this sounds so fascinating, definitely connect with Melissa. It is a gift you get to give yourself. And that's really how I see so much in life right now is even acceptance. It's the gift you get to give yourself
Yes.
instead of waiting for somebody else to do it. Lead first. Yeah, that's in everything I do, coaching here on the podcast, like in life in general, we lead first because the more you lead yourself, the more you give others permission to not only be self-led, but to understand that there is something else that can be done or that is possible. Yeah.
I love that. I love
And,
that.
and I think it's so important, especially in this day and time, especially for women, to step into their power. And while, again, we are adults, we don't need permission. There's this voice in the back of the head is like, oh, but can it really be possible? So, for
Mm.
Melissa, for someone who's really questioning themselves right now while listening to this, what would your advice be?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that it's no longer optional. It's necessary. It's a requirement now, especially for women. It's no longer, oh, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. No. You have to. Like it's that's it. Like in the beginning of this, it was more of, oh, if you want, you should. Let's do it. No, it's a requirement. Like this, the world needs you, the earth needs you, your children need you, the ancestors need you. It's so the men need you. And I'm talking to women, like the men need for us to step into our power. Although this is a very patriarchal world, once I think women step into their power, the balance is what's going to happen, and then this world would be such a better place. And the only way men could lead better, and women can lead, is if we step into our power, both of us. And so yeah, I'd say it's necessary. Like just take that small step. And once you take, and every step is super important, and every step is super crucial. So celebrate the small steps you take. What can I do? Oh, I want to be a little more vulnerable, or I want to use my voice more, or whatever it is. If you did it just a little bit, like one of my clients yesterday interviewed for a job that she never felt she could do. Like she always put herself down and like shrunk herself and kept herself in these small little positions because she never thought she deserved anything better. And she calls it, we have our session, and she's beating herself up about life. And then she tells me about this interview that she did. And I was like, hold up. You gave me a laundry list of all the things you haven't done. But you see what you did. For
Right.
years, you kept yourself in this small position because you kept yourself so small because you were afraid to shine. And you just took this huge leap and you chose to shine. And she was like, holy shit. And this is the thing, we have to celebrate those what we feel small. We have to see how big they are. And then the minute we begin to celebrate whatever it is, just take a little small step. If you're not ready, take the smallest step you could possibly take in that direction. And before you know it, it's like, holy shit, I'm here. I did this.
100.
Yeah, but don't give up just because
Yeah.
you're not ready, right? Don't
At
give up.
100%.
It's because a lot of us do that. Oh yeah, forget it. Oh, I can't. I mean, if maybe it's not showing up to one of my divine feminine circles, maybe it's showing up to a virtual divine feminine circle, which actually I have one of those on Monday. Maybe it's showing up to a free virtual circle as you're first tipping your toe in the water, right? And take that step,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, or maybe it's contacting me and saying, you know, I'm not ready to do this in a group setting. Let me just contact you, and maybe we can do a one-on-one, whatever it is. But show up for yourself, take that step, and I promise you, you will not regret it.
And that's a wrap. Melissa, thank you so much. I loved the wisdom you brought on today. For our listeners, I know it landed. Definitely tag us on Instagram. You can find all of our information in the show notes. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your aha was, what your awareness was, the permission you finally are giving yourself. Again, I am Chaitali Desai. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to see what's next for all of us. And remember, be like the phoenix and rise.